Some people have called this a new era, especially given Ishiba's sort of distance with Shinzo Abe and Taro Aso. What do you think?
I agree with that. He's been, I would say, off-road, main road. So he has many different angles from the long-standing regime created by Mr. Abe and Mr. I think Aso, those, mainstays, right? So we expect that he will bring some new ideas like to revitalize rural economies. So it hasn't been shown yet, but I'll expect something new.
That's the point, right? I mean, off-road, but it still hasn't been shown yet in the sense that, do you have any clarity of any of the policies that could potentially affect big business?
Not yet. We feel more or less safe about economic policies of Japan because we are sure that he'll take over the policies taken by Mr. Kishida. That's a really good thing because how we can continue the constant increases of wages, right? And how to mobilize the laborers because we lack laborers. That's why that's a constraint to start the buildings of the data centers and lots of investment are waiting, but we need laborers.
And you talked about wages, 7% pay rise for Suntory again for next year. Do you think other businesses will follow?
I think they have to follow. Under the census which we conducted at the Keizai-do Yukai, 70 to 80% of the large corporations already decided to increase, but we don't know how much. But at least 4.5 or at the current, the last year's, this year's level. So I think corporates of Japan are eager to increase wages so that we can retain good people, good talents. I think this is the getting to be a social norm that we need to increase wages.
Have you seen the sort of revival of consumer confidence of, so-called animal spirits when it comes to any changes that you've seen across the market, across the consumer?
I would say yes and no. We have to look at the current activity of consumers. As a matter of fact, it's been more robust than before. The reason is a substantial increase of wages. That is now above the CPI. That helps the consumers to buy more things. So it's a good sign. But we have to take a look the actions to be taken by big corporations, whether they'll increase wages or not. And that'll be announced maybe in a couple of months from now.
Earlier in the year, you denied that you were in talks to buy Boston Beer and that there wasn't a level of interest there. I'm wondering if you're keeping an eye out for other opportunities, perhaps more international opportunities. Does that fit into your strategy and approach right now?
Well, I deny that because we haven't spoken about that. And we are now trying to grow, I think, internally. And putting lots of resources to the United States to grow our business of RTDs. So once we set up our footprint in the United States in that space, we'll consider. But at this moment, we don't consider to acquire any business in the United States.
In the United States. What are the international implications for Suntory, especially when it comes to the exchange rate, given that especially Mr. Ishiba now was okay with normalizing BOJ policy, and he seems to be walking back those comments a little bit, and he wants the BOJ to stay accommodative?
I don't think BOJ will be influenced by the Prime Minister's words too much. Anyway,
but the yen will definitely be influenced.
Yeah. But our policy to go overseas won't be impacted by any policy of the BOJ or any impact from the dollar-yen re-evaluation whatsoever, because we want to be global. But there is a huge opportunity to address the aging population, as a matter of fact, in this country, such as nutrition.
I want to get to the aging population and workers, but do your executive colleagues, are they comfortable with the yen at 143?
But as a matter of fact, we set 145. Whether comfortable or not, I don't think so. Well, we should see perhaps 135, so forth. But we expect that BOJ anyway will increase interest rates. Perhaps by the end of this year, 0.25 or so. It's our expectation in the market, as a matter of fact. That should happen because we are under the inflation, not the deflation, and close to 3%. And mostly gas and utility are supported by the government. If we exclude that, that should be about 3%.
How closely are you watching the geopolitical tensions, given that now it's really affecting oil prices?
Well, that's a big issue and should not be escalated, but could be escalated. But at the current glut of oil and gas, I think will not affect too much.
When it comes to the aging population and the demographics that you talked about, you're really a big proponent of labor market reforms. Some of the biggest proponents of that during the campaign, Koizumi as well as Taro Kono, they didn't even make the cabinet this time. Does that give you a little bit of pause about potential flexibility in the future when it comes to that issue?
Well, as a matter of fact, the current labor market is, I think, toward the more flexible to find laborers. So which means labor mobility is much more than before. And that should be, I think, enhanced by the new prime minister. And I don't think the government and the business will talk about how to fire people. Instead, how we can mobilize more, giving the better wages and better conditions to workers.